Hello? Hello? Can anyone hear me? Hello everyone, welcome back to Too Sweet MTG, welcome to another Commander video. We're exploring the spooky haunted house of Duskmourn this week. Today, we're looking at Rendmaw, Creaking Nest. It is 3 black and a green for a 5/5 legendary artifact creature Scarecrow. It has Menace, Reach, and whenever it enters and whenever you play a card with 2 or more card types, each player creates a tapped 2/2 black bird creature token with flying. Those tokens are goaded for the rest of the game. This means they have to attack each combat if able, and most importantly, attack a player other than us if able. Rendmaw is a really sweet commander, and I'm so here for it. What's cool about it is that it rewards us for playing cards with multiple types. Artifact lands, enchantment creatures, that kind of stuff. When we do that, it'll make us and our opponents a bunch of tokens that they have to use to kill one another. That is definitely one of the more fun takes on a group slug commander that I've seen, as rather than destroying everyone's land or burning them whenever they do anything, we're giving them all an army of birbs to swing at each other with, and that is infinitely more fun. To make that happen, we want as many cards as possible in this deck to be multiple card types, as ideally whenever we do anything, be it play a land or cast a creature, to reward us by putting those 2/2 bird tokens into play. For a card not to be 2 types, it has to have some effect that we really need that we can't get anywhere else. What this all means is that this is going to be built like a Delirium-esque deck with a creature token sub-theme. The Delirium-y part is that those decks already want as many types on cards as possible, so it's a great base for this deck. The creature token part is, well, because we're trying to make the largest murder of crows possible. Before we go into the game plan, let's quickly tackle some rules interactions with Rendmaw. Specifically here, what types it triggers from and what we are looking to include all throughout the deck. Firstly, the card types that we want to overlap are things like Artifact, Battle, Creature, Enchantment, Instant, Kindred, Land, Planeswalker, and Sorcery. Primarily, these will overlap on permanents, as they can have multiple types. You'll only see instant and sorceries overlap if they have something like Kindred. These types of overlap cards you really want to run as many as possible in the deck. What doesn't work here is things like Legendary, Snow, World, and Basic, as these are importantly super types. So a legendary creature, for example, doesn't trigger Rendmaw, neither does a Snowland. That's an important little distinction, so do keep an eye out for that when you're building your deck. In terms of our game plan, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Early game, we're going to want to ramp out our commander and then play as many cards with multiple types as possible. That could be creatures, that could be lands, it could be enchantments. This will let us and our opponents build an angry army of birds. Our opponent's birds will have to smash into each other, meaning we can focus on whichever opponent is the scariest. Then late game, we'll either make our board bigger, then turn them sideways and win the game that way, or use some drain effects to finish off the last of our opponents. A quick note on how this video will work: we don't give full deck lists in this series. Rather, we break down the deck into the different sections that the deck needs to function. We'll then tell you how many cards in each section to run, and then give you a bunch of suggestions for you to run in each section, so you can make the deck work for you, your budget, and your playstyle. Any card we mentioned will be down in the description below. While you're there, please consider giving the video a like. Our first section is our token support package. This is here to help boost up the number of critters that we're making all the higher, so that when we get to our win cons, we'll have plenty of things to make huge. First up, we have some more token makers. Bitterblossom is a great token maker that's also importantly 2 card types, so it will trigger Rendmaw. Springheart Nantuko can either make us a bunch of 1/1s, or multiple copies of our best creature if it's bestowed onto something cool. Grismold is then like a tiny version of our commander that will get massive in the deck. Arasta is another 2 card type creature that will spit out a bunch more tokens, and then Ishkanah is a great payoff for all the different card types that will be running in the deck. To help boost up those tokens all the higher, you can look at running some token doublers. Firstly, you have cards like Parallel Lives and Doubling Season. These double up all the tokens that only we are making, meaning that our board state is twice as deadly as our opponents. You then have Primal Vigor and Roaming Throne. These will double up the amount of birds that everyone is making. And while it might seem at first a bit counterintuitive to give our opponents more death crows, remember that they are goaded, so while we have multiple opponents, they won't ever be coming at us. Then in this section, finally we have Biotransference. This is a bit of a weird card, but stick with me. Basically what it does is it staples the word artifact onto all of our creatures. This will give any creature that we're running with only one type an additional subtype. That importantly means when we cast it, it will trigger Rendmaw. The fact that when we're doing this it also makes us an army of Necrons is going to be really nice as well. Next up is our card draw section, and here we're looking for somewhere between 8 to 12 bits to keep the deck ticking over. We first have some cool bits that work nicely with the deck. Firstly, with Pygmy Kavu. It rewards us for our opponents having a bunch of birds in play by drawing us a card for each of them that our opponents control. This is one of the coolest things about this deck. You get to play some weird Colors Matters cards you don't normally get to. We then have some creatures like Toski, Bearer of Secrets, and Ohran Frostfang that draw us cards whenever we deal combat damage to a player. As all the birds have to be attacking, hopefully no one will have any blockers, so our birbs will get through for some lovely card draw. You then have a card like Erebos, God of the Dead. What's nice is this will trigger our commander by being an enchantment creature, it'll stop our opponents from gaining any life, and then lets us draw some extra cards. Absolutely solid. You then have a nice and simple card like Dockside Chef. It triggers Rendmaw when it comes into play, then importantly can turn a spare bird into some bonus card draw. This is honestly fantastic for just 1 mana. To then reward us for all the creatures that we're going to be casting in this deck, you have spells like Beast Whisperer and Guardian Project. These are just staples in any green deck running a lot of creatures. Honestly, they're fantastic. Sleeve them up, give them a go. To then reward us for all the tokens that we're making in the deck, we have a card like Idol of Oblivion. With this in play, we're effectively drawing an extra card every turn. That's phenomenal for just 2 mana. You can then cash in those tokens to cards like Corrupted Conviction, Village Rites, and Deadly Dispute. These are fantastic cheap spells dripping in card advantage. I'm finding myself running these more than more, they're just really good. And then we have a card that's great before a board wipe in Species Specialist. Obviously with this, we're going to name Bird, and then draw a bunch of cards whenever they start mashing into each other. We then have some cards that I will admit are a little all in, but cards like Return of the Wild Speaker and Shamanic Revelation reward us for making that massive board state of birbs, specifically by drawing us an obscene amount of cards. The fact Return of the Wild Speaker can also be a win condition is also pretty lovely. If you then need to top up the section, you can look at some sorcery one-time bits of card draw in these colours. We've gone over plenty of options, but these are just solid, they'll do the job you need, run them if you have to. Next up is our ramp section, and like with most decks, we're looking for somewhere between 8 to 12 bits to make sure the deck functions as we need it to. First up, we have some mana dorks, and in this deck you are specifically looking for ones that are multiple card types. You have a bunch of options that are artifact creatures, and personally I think these are all pretty good. You have things like Coppermere, Hedron Crawler, Leadenmere, Mannequin, Ornithopter of Paradise, the pick of the bunch in Twitching Doll, and then also Palladium Mere. With our commander in play, these all have create a 2/2 bird attached to them, meaning they're all really good. In a similar vein, we also have an enchantment creature that does the same thing, with Sanctum Weaver. Even if it's only tapping for 1, it's still going to be good. We then have a creature that turns all of our tokens into mana dorks, with Enduring Vitality. This could make our birds tap for an obscene amount of mana, and it also means we don't have to throw them away into combat if we don't want to, as we can just tap them to cast a spell in our first main phase. We then have some ways of getting lands out of the deck, as well as triggering our commander with Burnished Heart and Solemn Simulacrum. These are pretty much commander staples that get so much better in this deck. For another way of ramping, we have Overlord of the Hauntwoods. This is a fixed prime time that we can impend for 3 mana and get an everything land straight away, all while triggering our commander. Then late game, it's a pretty beefy lad to get into the red zone. Another cool little interaction in this deck is that because we already want to be running Dryad Arbor, because importantly, it is a creature land that'll trigger our commander, we can run Green Sun Zenith as a ramp spell. It'll still be a creature tutor when we need it to, but early in the game, effectively it's a single green for a rampant growth. That is fantastically cool and very solid. You then have cards like Courser of Crufix, which will help us hit our land drops every turn, and Dryad of the Elysian Grove, which fixes us and lets us play an extra land every turn. Importantly, these are both enchantment creatures that'll trigger our commander when they come into play. To top up this section, there's a bunch of other things that you can run. You can run some standard rampant growth effects like Nature's Law and Cultivate. You can run some mana rocks like Soul Ring and Arcane Signet. For some synergistic options, you can run a card like Druid's Repository. This can make us mana whenever we attack with one of our evasive creatures. You could run Ashnod's Altar or Phyrexian Altar to let us turn all the tokens we're making into mana. Or you could run a 3-mana rock like Patchwork Banner, which can make all of our birbs all the bigger. Next up is our interaction section, and like with most decks, we're looking for somewhere above 10 bits here, going up slightly the more competitive that our playgroup is. First up, we have some synergistic options with Lignify, Eyeblight's Ending, Dalek Drone, Necron Deathmark, and Noxious Gearhole. These all let us answer a creature an opponent controls, while importantly being multiple types, meaning that they trigger our commander when they come into play. We want to be running these types of cards anyway, as they play into our game plan, but the fact they can also take out a key threat of an opponent's is incredibly important. To take out an artifact or enchantment an opponent controls, we also have a card like Haywire Might. Again, a great cheap way of triggering our commander. You then have some of the best bits of instant speed interaction out there that will let you hit a multitude of different threats. These are fantastic at topping up this section so you can interact with your opponents on their turns. And then some effects that are specific to this deck, you have cards like Maelstrom Pulse and Culling Ritual. These can be great in the deck if we ever need to answer that murder of crows we've given to our opponents. Then there's also plenty of generic board wipes in these colours, but 2 I like because they're also win cons is firstly Massacre Worm, because if our opponents have a bunch of birds, the worm could just take out an opponent as soon as we cast it with a life loss ability when a creature an opponent controls dies. Azuri's Predation is then also great at turning our opponent's armies of 2/2s into our own army of 4/4s. Moving on now to a little bit of protection. Our commander is an awesome value engine, and this section is here to keep it around all the longer. We have a synergistic bit first with Cloak and Dagger. It's a kindred artifact, so it triggers our commander, all while importantly giving it Shroud. We then have cards like Malika Rebirth and Not Dead After All, great at turning some targeted removal or a board wipe into re-triggering our commander's ETB effect. We can then protect our whole board of tokens with Heroic Intervention, always solid when you're planning on going wide with creatures. And then we have cards that protect our life total, cards like Raking Canopy and Sandworm Convergence. These make it so that those flyers will never be able to come back at us, which remember is a possibility when we get down to one-on-one with our final opponent. We then have a little bit of Recursion next. Stuff will be dying in this deck, and it's just going to be very helpful to keep those key bits around. A card like Whip of Erebos is very nice, because not only is it an artifact enchantment, but its ability to bring back a key creature is fantastic. And then, on top of that, the bonus lifelink will really add up in this deck. This card can really pull us back from a bunch of awful spots. For a one-time effect that also triggers our commander, you have a card like Gloomshrieker. In this deck, it's basically Eternal Witness with upside. A cool card that's also worth mentioning that we don't get to run anywhere else is Reap. If our game plan is in any way in action, this can bring back a bunch of key spells back to our hand from our bin, all for just 2 mana. Okay, so we have the base of the deck. Let's go over some dedicated ways that we're going to win the game. First up, we have some synergistic ways of buffing up the power of our creatures. Cards like Signal Pest, Metallic Mimic, Adaptive Automaton, and Renata Call to the Hunt all buff up our birds in some way so that they become bigger than our opponents. The fact they trigger our commander as well, so we make more birds with them, is just fantastic. We can also give all of our attacking creatures Death Touch with a card like Bow of Nylea. This means they're more likely to get through, and again, the fact it's an artifact enchantment means it'll trigger our commander. We have a Delirium-based overrun next with Demolisher Spawn. This will be really easy to activate in this deck with all the multiple types that we're running, and giving our evasive board +4/+4 is going to be a surefire way of ending a game of Magic. We then have classic Commander overrun type of effects with cards like Beastmaster Ascension, Triumph of the Hordes, and Overwhelming Stampede. These are staples in any kind of board state-based deck. They are just tried and true, and they will win us games. Another way you could look at winning is with cards like Bloodseeker that drain out an opponent when a creature comes into play under their control, like for example a 2/2 bird, or Ayara, which drains them whenever a black creature comes into play under our control, also like a 2/2 bird. You can drain them out further by running cards like Blood Artist and the Meathook Massacre, the latter of which doubles up as a board wipe, which is pretty nice. You then have possibly my favourite way of winning in this deck, and that's by making all the birds absolutely massive with cards like Bad Moon, Crown of Doom, and Coat of Arms. These will make every bird in play huge, and because they're all goaded, it means our opponents will take out each other incredibly quickly. Yes, I'm aware this could possibly backfire on us a little bit, as the last opponent will get to attack us with their board state. But of all the ways of winning, this seems like the most fun to me. And then finally you have some cards like Pact of the Serpent and Wingstorm. The Pact could be used to draw us a couple of cards, or, if our opponents have enough birds, it kinda turns into a fireball. Then you have a card like Wingstorm, which if you're running a sacrifice outlet or 2, we can sack all of our birds and then drain out each opponent for the number that they have left. Our last section for the day is our land section, and here we're looking for somewhere between 36 to 38 lands to make this deck function. We're going to start off first by running as many artifact lands as possible. These are everything to this deck, as importantly they trigger Rendmaw whenever we play them. These are on lands. We want to be running them anyway. These are basically free to include. These easily make us a bird for free on top of all the other spells that we're going to be casting. We've then already mentioned Dryad Arbor as a creature land. You can also then include Valgaroth's Lair and Urza's Saga as enchantment lands that will trigger our commander, while giving some nice utility as well. Talking of utility, there's a bunch of other that you can look to run. For black we have Bajuka Bog for some graveyard hate, Braxian Tower as a sack outlet and some bonus ramp, and Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth for some fixing. In green, a card like Shifting Woodland can easily become a copy of the best card in our graveyard, and then you have more bonus fixing with Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. In colourless we have a card like Grim Backwards for some more bonus card draw, we have Buried Ruin for some reanimation, including for our commander, which is nice, and then you have 3 Tree City, which is a budget Gaia's Cradle in any deck making a bunch of tokens. Top this up with the best jewels you have available to you, preferably run ones that come into play untapped. There is enough of these now that even if you're building on a budget, you can put something good together. Finish off the deck with somewhere between 12 to 18 basic lands, and you'll be good to go. Alright, that's going to do it for the video. Thank you all very much for watching. If there's any other commanders from Duskmourn House of Horrors you would like me to take a look at, put it down in the comments and I'll check it out. But until next time, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and until then, I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.